And welcome into Making Sense. You know, it doesn't take long to pick up a piece of an article. In fact, we may have some sitting right here in front of us that have that little tag underneath called Made in China. Well, a lot of things are made in China. Too many things left the United States to go overseas. And of course, this has helped China to start to grow more as an economic power. And today my guest is Brandt McDonald. And Brandt, you're with McDonald, Barranco, Hagen Wealth Management.
Right.
And just before we get into China, you people are in the wealth management business.
Right.
You've been in business for what, 17 years?
No, actually, I've been managing money now for 25 years. I'm in my 26th year now.
Okay.
And yes.
But you started your firm when? About?
Oh, I started our firm, yeah, that would have been April of '98.
That's
so
right.
We're in our 17th year as an independent wealth management company.
Good, good.
Right.
Well, we talked about China. And recently, if you've watched the news, they keep talking about the fact that we're always been number one as far as the economy is concerned, but there's people obviously trying to climb up and unseat us. And is it possible, and is it happening?
Well, of course, anything is possible,
right.
Although I seriously doubt it. And I'll explain why. You know, China is one of these interesting stories. This is a communist country, so we can't forget about that. They have a significant bent towards capitalism, but it's its own unique version of capitalism. They're definitely not a democratic society, nor are they a republic or anything close to it. China and Japan, if you combine those two economies, they would equal ours. So I think it's important to remember that we are still by far and away the largest economy in the world. And as our economy goes, so does the rest of the world. However, there is a little bit of a caveat to that. You know, we have one of the things that fueled economic growth here in the U.S. over the last 2 decades was because we were able to outsource a lot of jobs, manufacturing jobs, over to China. Now, that's not great for the American worker, but it's certainly great for profit margins of large U.S. multinational corporations. And we don't want to get into all the sweatshops and all of those issues, which are civil rights issues.
Right.
But suffice it to say that you've seen a huge number of jobs, these manufacturing jobs, go to China. China has been an export-led economy. You know, they have for years and years now built their economy around the idea of manufacturing and exporting products around the world at very low prices. And I think we're coming to the end of that. They are the largest emerging economy in the world, but they're trying to become a developed nation. The problem that I see as a money manager and as a financial advisor is that the country of China, being a communist nation, we can't lose sight of the fact that that government controls the banking sector, they control the flow of credit, and we've seen a huge overbuild in the real estate market there in that country. They still have many, many problems from an infrastructure standpoint. For example, the justice system, transparency of books and records, accounting records, and the like. So I think you want to be very, very careful about investing in China, and I think that here recently what we've seen in the last 12 months is a massive slowdown in the Chinese economy, primarily because they're trying to control these bubbles that they're beginning to see build, and particularly in the real estate market. You know, you've heard these terms, they have ghost cities and all of this because they've overbuilt in these cities. They have 16 to 25% on average, depending on which city you're talking about, that have vacant properties and may never be sold or ever occupied. So it's a huge problem, you know, and I think it spills over into the emerging markets as well. And I would say that in the case of Japan, that ties closely into that. Abe, who has implemented his Abe economics program, they've been printing yen at a rate that makes our QE program look like a little cakewalk. Yeah. It's really quite astonishing to watch what's happening in the emerging markets. That's why I believe you've seen most international investments coming back into the United States, because our Federal Reserve devalued our currency. It's now, the U.S. dollar is roughly a third less in value compared to other international currencies from 10 years ago. I think that has caused a huge flight of capital back into the United States for people who are looking for more transparency, looking for investments that are dollar denominated in order to avoid what could be a hard landing in China. So China is definitely one of these countries that is very closely tied in with international growth. They have a direct impact with their trading partners, particularly in Europe and the Americas. And I think that's part of the reason why we've seen somewhat of a slowdown with U.S. corporate earnings and corporate revenue growth, particularly the large multinationals. But over time, this will smooth out. The important thing to remember is that a country like China is going to experience many fits and starts and an enormous amount of volatility as they continue to mature and grow as a large economy. And I would say as well that the government there has slowly begun to move, although they are still a declared communist state, their actions definitely have been to move away from that into more of a free market society. They have to do this. They have no choice. If they don't, they're going to get left behind. You'll see them roll over and their economy will crash. So our forecast for that region of the world is a slowdown over the next 10 years where growth rates will normalize, and I think that the big story will probably be the U.S., believe it or not. The demographics favor the U.S. more. China actually, if you forecast the next 10 years, their population is going to shrink. Right. As opposed to the U.S., which will expand. So I'm very bullish on the United States economy with one caveat, and that is as long as we get some sort of sanity back in Washington from a fiscal perspective as well as a regulatory perspective, and stop taking over entire industries like the healthcare system, you know, and the financial, the banking industry by default. So all in all, very bullish on the U.S., somewhat cautious on the Asian markets.
Good. Thank you so much. It's been good. And just remember this, as Brandt was telling you, just keep your eye on things that are happening. Of course, the election is key because we have to have people in Washington that are going to understand the way the economy truly works. We'll be right back right after this.